Sometimes it feels like I'm walking through quicksand, every step I take sinks me deeper, even though I'm trying as hard as I can to climb out. I'm 27 now, and honestly, most days it's a battle just to keep my head above water. The weight of money, or rather the lack of it, presses on me so heavily that I can't breathe without thinking about bills, rent, groceries, and the creeping costs that never seem to slow down. I want to be honest about how exhausting it is because I know I'm not alone in this, but it's still hard to admit out loud. I graduated college 3 years ago, full of hope and plans. I imagined a future where I could finally pay off my student loans, save a bit, maybe travel, and even think about buying a place of my own someday. I dreamed of doing work I loved, maybe even going back to school for something else, or just living comfortably without that gnawing worry. But the reality I'm living now looks nothing like those dreams. The economy isn't kind right now. Inflation feels like a monster that's grown bigger every month, swallowing up any extra money I might have scraped together. Rent goes up every year in my city, sometimes twice a year. Groceries, utilities, gas, everything costs more than it did the last time I checked. And my salary? It barely moves. I'm lucky to have a steady job, but the raises I get don't keep up with the rising prices. It's like running on a treadmill that's speeding up, but your legs are stuck in mud. Every day I'm making decisions that feel like a compromise, or worse, sacrifices. I watch friends go out for dinners, take weekend trips, buy new gadgets, and I want that too. But I can't. Instead, I'm clipping coupons, buying off-brand cereal, and trying to convince myself that one less coffee or skipping the occasional dinner out won't matter. It does. It matters a lot. Because those small joys, those little things that make life sweet, have become luxuries I can't afford. The constant balancing act between stretching every dollar and trying to keep some semblance of a social life is exhausting. There's this deep sense of frustration inside me, like I'm trapped in a system that's rigged. Expenses grow faster than I can earn. I work overtime sometimes, picking up extra shifts or freelance gigs, but the extra money disappears before I know it. Bills, debt payments, car repairs, the occasional emergency that always seems to come at the worst time. And I'm supposed to save for the future? I laugh at the thought, but it's a hollow sound inside. Sometimes, late at night when the apartment is quiet and the world feels far away, I lie awake thinking about what freedom would look like. Freedom from the constant math of, can I afford this, or what if my paycheck isn't enough this month? Freedom from the stress that tightens in my chest every time I open my bank app. I think about the life I want, traveling without guilt, having a home that feels like mine, maybe even starting a family someday without fear of being crushed by bills. But those dreams feel like distant stars, beautiful, but unreachable. I cope the best I can. Meditation helps on the bad days, and I've started journaling my thoughts, trying to untangle the mess inside my head. I talk to friends when I can, though I rarely bring up money because it feels too personal, too shameful. There's this stigma around financial struggle that makes it feel like a personal failure, but really, it's just a symptom of a bigger problem. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance, but sometimes that's hard to believe when everything around me screams otherwise. The hardest part is the emotional toll. It's not just about missing out on things. It's about feeling stuck in a place where progress seems impossible. I watch social media feeds filled with people living the lives I want, and it's tempting to compare and feel worse. But I'm learning to be gentle with myself, to recognize that my path might be slower and more complicated, but it's still mine. I'm trying to hold on to hope, even when it feels fragile. I remind myself that this is a season, not forever. That maybe one day I'll have a cushion under me. Maybe one day I'll look back and see how far I've come. For now, I take it one day at a time, celebrate small victories like paying a bill early or finding a deal on groceries, and keep dreaming, even if those dreams have to wait a little longer. The system feels like it wants to break me down, but I'm still here. I'm still trying. And I think that matters too. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments, I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. I never thought I'd feel this way at 26, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking deeper the more I struggle to get out. It's that constant, exhausting pressure that doesn't let up, not for a second. I wake up and the first thought that hits me isn't about what I want to do or who I want to be, it's about money. How am I going to make it through the month? How do I stretch what little I have just a bit further without breaking? The world around me feels like it's moving fast, like some endless race where everyone else has a head start and I'm trying to catch up on crutches. Rent keeps going up, groceries cost more every week, and bills don't care if my paycheck stays the same, or worse, if I miss a shift or two. I've learned to ignore the price tags, to dodge the temptation of something I want but can't afford, and sometimes, I've even found myself putting off eating enough just so I can pay for something else that feels more urgent. I'm working 2 jobs right now, one at a coffee shop and another part-time in a bookstore, trying to keep my head above water. It's not the hours, it's the grind, the mental weight of knowing no matter how much I work, the numbers in my bank account barely budge. Every dollar I earn feels like it's already spoken for before I even get to spend it. I've had to learn to be ruthless with my budget, to prioritize rent and utilities over everything else. That means no new clothes, no nights out with friends, no spontaneous plans that cost money. Even basic things like fixing my phone or going to the doctor have to wait, sometimes indefinitely. I remember when I was a kid, the dreams felt so big and endless. I wanted to travel, to go back to school, maybe even start my own small business someday. I imagined waking up without the weight of worry, having enough to save a little, and the freedom to say yes to things because they mattered, not because I could afford them. But now, those dreams seem like luxuries I can't afford to entertain. Every time I try to plan for the future, reality pulls me back, emergency expenses, an unexpected car repair, or just the crushing cost of daily life. Some days it feels like I'm trapped in a loop with no exit. The economy keeps moving forward, but it feels like it's built to leave people like me behind, young adults just trying to get by. The cost of living rises faster than wages, and no matter how hard I work or how careful I am, the gap only grows. It's like running on a treadmill set at full speed, but the ground underneath me keeps moving backward. It's disheartening and lonely in a way that's hard to explain to someone who hasn't been there. Emotionally, it's draining. The constant stress seeps into every part of my life, it makes me irritable, anxious, and sometimes downright hopeless. I worry about what happens if I get sick or if something bigger goes wrong. I try to put on a brave face, but inside, there's this gnawing fear that no matter what I do, I might never catch a break. I've had nights lying awake, heart pounding, going over every penny, trying to imagine some way out that doesn't exist yet. Still, I try to hold on to hope, even if it's fragile. I find small ways to cope, journaling, walks in the park, moments spent with friends who understand without judgment. Sometimes I allow myself to dream, just a little, even if it feels dangerous to do so. I remind myself that this isn't the end, just a chapter. I want to believe that one day, I'll have the chance to breathe again, to build something stable for myself, to reclaim those postponed dreams. But until then, it's about surviving, about being careful, resilient, and finding meaning in the little victories. Like managing to save $5 one week or getting through a tough day without breaking down. It's about hoping that the system will change, or that somehow, I'll find a way through the cracks to a better place. I'm tired, yes. But I'm still here, still trying, still hoping for the day when I'm no longer defined by my financial struggle but by my strength and my dreams. Some days, it feels like I'm running on a treadmill that only speeds up the longer I try to keep up. No matter how hard I push, I'm stuck in the same place, or worse, slipping backward. It's this constant pressure, this invisible weight of money, or rather, the lack of it, that presses down on me every day, shaping every choice, every thought, every tiny dream I once had. I'm 26 now. When I was a teenager, I had a sketchy idea of what adult life would be like. I thought I'd go to college, get a decent job, maybe move into my own apartment, travel a bit, and start saving for some kind of future, buying a car, maybe a home one day. But those plans, they feel like distant echoes now. The economic world I live in isn't the one I imagined. It's harsher, more relentless. Right now, I'm working a job that pays just enough to cover the essentials: rent, utilities, food, transportation. That's it. Occasionally I manage to put a little aside, but that little gets eaten up by unexpected expenses, or bills that suddenly rise. Inflation's the word everyone throws around, but it's not just a number in the news. It's the $4 for a coffee I used to buy $4 the rent that climbs every year, the electric bill that feels like a punishment just for using the heater in winter. It's waking up every morning knowing that I'll probably have to skip something, or stretch a dollar until it feels like it might snap. It's exhausting. I feel like I'm constantly making impossible choices. Should I buy groceries now or save for a doctor's appointment? Should I take public transit or risk spending more on gas if I drive? Should I pick up extra shifts and sacrifice sleep or rest and face the consequences the next day? These decisions wear me down in a way that's hard to explain. It's not just financial, it's emotional. There's this gnawing anxiety that never quite lets up, like a dull ache that stays with me, even when I try to distract myself. I try to be practical, of course. Budgeting apps, meal prepping, hunting for deals, avoiding any non-essential spending. But it feels like a game rigged against me. Prices go up, wages stay flat. The system seems designed to keep people like me just barely afloat. It's a trap, and I can see it, but escaping feels impossible. The weight of debt looms, too. Student loans from years ago, a credit card balance I'm trying to pay down, every payment I make feels like shoveling sand against a rising tide. Some nights, when I lie in bed, I let myself think about what life might be like if money wasn't such a relentless shadow. I imagine waking up without that knot of worry in my stomach. I dream about moving to a place where I don't have to budget every single meal, where I can buy a new pair of shoes without feeling guilty, where I can even think about taking a weekend trip just for fun. I used to dream about traveling the world, seeing places beyond this city, maybe even living abroad for a while. Now those dreams feel like luxuries I've had to set aside. Friends talk about their side hustles and investments, but it's hard to even think about that when you're just trying to cover the basics. Sometimes, I feel ashamed, like I'm failing somehow because I can't get ahead. But then I remind myself it's not personal failure, it's the system. The economy, rising costs, job markets that don't reward hard work the way they should. I'm not lazy or careless, I'm tired. I cope the best I can. Music helps. Long walks when the weather's nice, just to clear my head. I call my family, even if I don't want to burden them with my worries. I find little moments of joy where I can, a good book from the library, a home-cooked meal, a sunset that reminds me there's more to life than numbers and bills. But some days, the weight is crushing, and it's hard to hold on to hope. Hope is tricky these days. I want to believe things will get better, that I'll find a way out of this financial squeeze. But I'm learning that hope isn't about ignoring reality. It's about acknowledging the struggle and still deciding to keep going. Maybe hope is in the small victories, paying off a bill, finding a bit of extra money to save, making it through another week without breaking down. I wish people understood what it's like to live this way, not just to hear statistics about inflation or wage stagnation, but to really feel it, to know what it means when your paycheck doesn't stretch. To feel the frustration of watching your friends buy homes or plan trips while you stay in the same apartment, year after year, wondering how to keep the lights on. This story isn't unique, I know. So many young people are caught in this loop. We're told to be responsible, to budget, to hustle, but the rules of the game keep changing, and not in our favor. Sometimes I wonder if I'll ever break free, or if I'm destined to live this way indefinitely, making hard choices every day, dreaming of a life that feels just out of reach. But despite everything, I'm still here. I'm still trying. Because giving up isn't really an option, even when the system feels designed to wear you down. I hold on to the hope that one day, the treadmill will slow. That I'll find a way to live a life that's not just about surviving, but about thriving. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, step by slow step, hoping that the future holds something better than this relentless pressure. Because even when it feels like I'm trapped, deep down, I believe there's still a way out. Sometimes I feel like I'm drowning, but no one notices because my struggles don't come with a splash or a shout. They're quiet, constant, like a low hum that never quite fades. Every day, I wake up knowing that the numbers will weigh on me, like an invisible chain tightening just a little more. I'm 27, working 2 jobs just to keep the lights on and food in the fridge. My income inches up maybe once a year, if I'm lucky, but everything else, the rent, the groceries, the gas, the bills, seem to rise relentlessly, faster than I can run. It's like I'm stuck on a treadmill that speeds up every few months, no matter how hard I push. Some months, I feel like I'm just one step away from falling off. I remember when I moved into my tiny apartment 2 years ago. It was affordable, just barely, but it felt like a small victory, proof that I could live independently. Back then, I had dreams, traveling, maybe going back to school, buying a reliable car. But each month, the cost of living creeps up a little more, and those dreams shrink in my mind, folding into the crevices of daily survival. Grocery shopping is a minefield now. I skim prices like a hawk, buy only what's on sale or what fits within my strict budget. Sometimes I skip fresh vegetables because they're pricier, opting instead for cheaper, less healthy options. I hate it, but it feels like a necessary compromise. I'm trying to be responsible, but my body and mind feel the toll. There are days when fatigue and irritability follow me like shadows, made worse by the nagging guilt that I'm not doing enough, even when I'm exhausted from working 60 hours a week. Social invitations come with an added layer of stress. I want to say yes, to see friends, to laugh and feel normal, but often I have to decline. Even a modest dinner out feels like a luxury I can't afford. When I do go, I'm calculating every expense afterward, wondering if it was worth the fleeting joy. This isolation chips away at me in a quiet, slow way. Bills pile up like an avalanche. Electricity, water, phone, internet, essential but relentless. Sometimes I delay payments just to cover groceries or gas. That momentary relief is a double-edged sword because the debt doesn't disappear, it waits, looming larger. I've called my credit card company more times than I can count, negotiating payments, pleading for extensions. It's humbling and exhausting. Sleep doesn't come easy. Lying in bed, my mind races through what-if scenarios. What if the rent goes up again? What if my hours at work get cut? What if the car breaks down, and I can't get to either job? The future feels uncertain and frightening, but the weight of today's expenses never loosens its grip enough to let me breathe. Some days, I catch myself feeling numb, like I'm in a fog. It's easier than facing the crushing reality. I find small escapes, a walk in the park, a late-night phone call with my sister, a book borrowed from the library. They remind me there's still a world beyond bills and budgets, even if it's momentary. I've had to put off so many things, college classes, medical checkups, even mental health counseling, because not now turns into maybe never. The dreams I had after high school feel distant and fragile, like glass waiting to shatter under the pressure of financial stress. Sometimes I wonder if I'm just supposed to accept this life, this constant juggling act, as my reality forever. But even in the exhaustion and the frustration, I hold on to hope. Hope that one day, the economy will shift in my favor. That maybe I'll find a job with better pay or benefits, or a scholarship to return to school. Hope that I can break the cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. I remind myself that I'm not alone, millions are navigating this same storm. Still, it's hard not to feel trapped. Like I'm caught in a system that rewards those with money already in hand and punishes those who don't. Every decision, every compromise feels like a tiny surrender, and some nights I lie awake wondering if I'll ever get ahead or if I'm destined to keep just barely surviving. But I keep going. Because what else can I do? I dream quietly, sometimes with tears, sometimes with a faint smile, holding on to the belief that someday, somehow, this pressure will ease, and I'll finally breathe free. Until then, I live in the tension between what is and what could be, still hoping, still fighting, still surviving. This is my story. It's not glamorous or heroic. It's real. And every day, it's a test of endurance and resilience. It's hard to put into words exactly what it feels like to live every day caught between a rising tide of expenses and a stagnant, barely there income. But here I am, trying to make sense of it all, hoping that maybe by telling this story, I'll untangle some of the knots inside me. My name is Jamie, I'm 26, and for the past few years, I've been trying to live in a world that seems designed to keep me just on the edge, never quite sinking, but never quite free. Every morning, I wake up with the weight of the day pressing down on my chest like a physical thing. I don't just feel tired, I feel worn thin. Not from hard labor or exhausting shifts, but from the constant mental battle with numbers, bills, prices. I check my bank account like it's some kind of cruel lottery. Will this month's paycheck cover rent, groceries, utilities, or will I have to cut corners again? Usually, it's the latter. I remember when I first moved into my own place, I was full of hope. I imagined painting the walls, filling the fridge with fresh food, maybe even inviting friends over for dinner now and then. But those dreams faded fast. Rent alone takes up more than half my paycheck, and everything else, electricity, internet, phone, groceries, feels like it's steadily climbing no matter how hard I try to budget. I started clipping coupons, hunting for sales, switching brands, but it's like trying to catch water with my hands. The more I squeeze, the more slips away. The economic environment today isn't kind to people like me. Wages barely move, but prices spiral. Gas costs more every week, my grocery bill creeps higher, and even things I never thought much about, like an unexpected trip to the doctor or a broken appliance, can set off a chain reaction of stress and sacrifice. Some days, it feels like I'm trapped in a game with no winning moves. I've had to make choices that never should have been choices in the first place. Like skipping meals just to pay a utility bill, or saying no to a birthday dinner with friends because I can't afford it this month. There's a quiet shame in these decisions, a sting that goes deeper than just missing out. It's the feeling that somehow, I'm failing to manage my life, failing to keep up with the world. But really, the fault isn't mine. The system is just unforgiving, and it's designed to reward those who already have. There's a strange loneliness in all this. When you live paycheck to paycheck, anxiety becomes a constant companion. At night, I lie awake thinking about what would happen if I lost my job or had a medical emergency. The thought of debt looms over me like a shadow I can't outrun. I've seen friends move out, get new jobs, even start families. Sometimes I feel left behind, like I'm stuck on a treadmill going nowhere while everyone else is running ahead. But I'm not completely without hope. In the quiet moments, I remember the dreams I had before the pressure set in, the dreams I still hold on to, even if they seem distant. I wanted to travel, see new places, experience life beyond this small apartment and endless bills. I wanted to finish my education, maybe start a career that felt meaningful and rewarding, not just one that pays the rent. I dreamed of saving enough to buy a car so I wouldn't rely on unreliable public transport. I dreamed of someday having enough to help my family without stretching myself thin. The hardest part is knowing I've had to postpone those dreams indefinitely. I keep telling myself it's temporary, that if I just hang on, keep working hard, things will get better. But sometimes, the future looks so far away that I wonder if I'm just fooling myself. The constant pressure wears down my confidence, makes me question if I'll ever break free from this cycle. To cope, I try to find small moments of peace and joy. I've learned to appreciate little things, a walk in the park, a chat with a friend, a good book borrowed from the library. Sometimes I write down my thoughts, trying to untangle the mess in my head. It helps, even if only a little. I also try to remind myself that I'm not alone, so many people are struggling in silence, caught in the same trap. That shared experience, oddly enough, gives me some comfort. I've had to grow tougher, more resourceful. I've learned to stretch every dollar, to ask for help when I'm at my breaking point, even if it's humiliating. I've discovered the power of community support groups, where people exchange advice, swap job leads, or just listen. Those connections remind me that this is bigger than me, and together, maybe we can find a way through. Still, the system doesn't change overnight. And while I wait, I carry this stubborn flicker of hope inside me, the hope that someday, the math will work out in my favor. That my income will catch up, or that I'll find a job with a living wage, or that policy changes will make housing and healthcare more affordable. I want to believe that the world won't always be a place where expenses grow faster than paychecks, where dreams are deferred indefinitely. I'm sharing this because maybe someone else feels this way too, trapped, exhausted, but still trying. If you're like me, know that your feelings are valid, your struggles real. And even when it's hard to see, hope can be a quiet act of rebellion against a system that wants to wear us down. So, I keep going. Day by day, paycheck by paycheck. Holding on to that small hope, trying to live honestly and vulnerably in a world that often feels anything but. Because even in the struggle, I am still here. Still dreaming. Still fighting. I wake up most mornings with this dull weight pressing on my chest, not quite physical pain, but the kind that sticks with you all day, nagging in the back of your mind. It's that familiar pressure of knowing I have bills to pay, rent that climbs a little higher every year, groceries that cost more than they should, and a paycheck that, somehow, barely seems to stretch anymore. I'm 26, working full-time, doing everything right, but it still feels like I'm sinking in quicksand. The harder I move, the deeper I go. Some days, I stare at my bank account and feel a strange mix of anger and helplessness. It's maddening to watch my expenses balloon with no real increase in income. Rent eats up nearly half my paycheck. Utilities, student loans, car payments, and the little things, like my phone bill or a subway card, pile on top. It's like the system is designed to keep me running in place. I know people say it's just how life is, but that doesn't make it any easier to swallow. I've learned to make choices that feel less like options and more like sacrifices. Eating out? Forget it. I can't justify the cost. Instead, I meal prep in bulk on Sundays, making rice and beans or pasta that I'll live on for the week. Friends invite me to hang out, but sometimes I have to say no because even a couple of drinks or a movie ticket feels like a luxury I can't afford. That loneliness creeps in quietly, the kind that's harder to explain than just saying I'm broke. It's the feeling that you're on the sidelines, watching life happen around you, while you stay stuck trying to keep your head above water. I keep a strict budget, tracking every cent. I've become a master at hunting discounts, clipping coupons, and comparing prices. But it's exhausting. I'm constantly calculating, should I buy the generic brand or the name brand? Is it worth taking the bus instead of an Uber? Should I skip that coffee this morning? The mental load is relentless. And when unexpected expenses show up, a car repair, a doctor's bill, it feels like the whole carefully balanced system might collapse. There are nights when I lie awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if things will ever get better. Will I ever have enough saved to move out of this cramped apartment? Will I be able to afford to go back to school someday, like I dreamed? Will I have the freedom to take a break, to travel, or even just to not worry for a while? Those dreams, once so vibrant, have been pushed further and further down the list, replaced by immediate concerns. I remember when I graduated college, I was so full of hope. I thought hard work and a degree would be the ticket out. Instead, I landed a job that barely pays above minimum wage, with benefits that feel more like a band-aid than real security. The cost of living in my city keeps rising, rent has gone up every year since I moved here. It's like the system was set up to keep people like me just on the edge, never quite falling, but never quite rising either. I've tried to talk about this with family and friends, but it's hard. There's this stigma around money struggles, especially for someone my age. People assume I'm irresponsible or lazy, and it hurts, because nothing could be further from the truth. I work hard, sometimes 2 jobs, just to keep things afloat. The emotional toll is heavy, though. Anxiety and stress have become constant companions. Some days, it's hard to find motivation or hope. But I keep going, because what choice do I have? I try to find small victories, a week where I stick to my budget, a discount I snag on groceries, a day when I manage to save a little extra. I lean on the kindness of a close few who understand, even when I can't fully explain. Sometimes I journal or talk to myself in the mirror, reminding myself that this isn't forever. That maybe, somehow, the tide will turn. Deep down, I still have those dreams. To own a home, to travel the world, to not have to choose between paying rent or buying medicine. I hold on to them quietly, like fragile sparks that keep me going when everything else feels overwhelming. And I hope that one day, the system will shift, that the cost of living won't keep outpacing wages, that people won't have to feel trapped, caught in this endless cycle of just getting by. For now, I keep moving forward. One day, one paycheck, one small step at a time. It's not glamorous or heroic, but it's real. And maybe, in sharing this, it's a little less lonely. I never thought I'd feel this way at 26, like I'm stuck in quicksand, sinking deeper every month, no matter how much I struggle to climb out. Every day feels like a balancing act, and the weight of it is exhausting. There's this invisible pressure, constant and unrelenting, that twists and knots itself inside me. It's the pressure of money, or rather, the lack of it, and how it quietly controls everything I do. I work full-time at a job that's stable but pays just enough to keep me above water, barely. The rent alone swallows up more than half my paycheck. I live in a small apartment, the kind with creaky floors and walls so thin I hear every argument next door like it's mine. The neighborhood is far from perfect, but it's all I can afford. I remind myself that having a roof over my head is a privilege. Still, when the rent is due, I'm that person who checks my bank balance with a pit in my stomach, fearing the numbers won't add up. Bills pile up, utilities, internet, phone, groceries, and each one feels like a mountain. I watch prices rise month after month, faster than my paycheck grows, if it even grows at all. Inflation isn't just a news story, it's the reason I hesitate at the grocery store checkout, quietly putting back items I hoped I could afford. Sometimes I skip buying fresh fruits or meat, settling for cheaper, less healthy options. It's not ideal, but it's the reality when the numbers on the price tags keep climbing and my income stays the same. Everyday decisions have become a careful negotiation with my budget. Should I pay for a doctor's visit this month, or do I put it off? Should I treat myself to a coffee with friends, or save that $4 for next week's gas? Should I get the bus or risk walking miles to save money, even when I'm exhausted? These choices, small in isolation, add up to a constant drain on my mental energy. They remind me daily that I don't have the luxury of spontaneity or ease. There's this crushing feeling of being trapped in a system that's designed to keep people like me running on a hamster wheel. The costs keep going up, but the opportunities to earn more don't keep pace. I see friends talking about promotions, side hustles, or investing in property, and I wonder if those doors will ever open for me. Sometimes it feels like they're in a different world, a world where money grows on trees, or at least, where effort is fairly rewarded. For me, it often feels like no matter how hard I work, the finish line keeps moving further away. It's not just the money itself, it's the emotional toll it takes. I find myself lying awake some nights, staring at the ceiling, heart racing with anxiety over upcoming bills. I worry about emergencies, a broken car, a sudden health problem, anything that could send me spiraling. The fear isn't just about finances, it's about security, about feeling safe and stable in a world that feels uncertain. Sometimes I feel ashamed to talk about it because it's so common, so many people are in the same boat, yet it's isolating. I'm reluctant to burden friends or family, fearing judgment or pity. To cope, I've developed little routines and mental tricks. Budgeting apps, strict grocery lists, and a commitment to not spending on anything non-essential. I've learned to find small joys that don't cost money, evening walks, reading books borrowed from the library, cooking meals from scratch. These things help, but they can't erase the larger stress that lingers. I sometimes dream of quitting everything and traveling, of starting fresh somewhere new, but those dreams feel more distant every day. One of the hardest things has been putting off big dreams I once held close. I wanted to travel abroad after college, see new places, experience different cultures. I imagined saving enough to move into a place of my own, decorate it the way I want, maybe even start a family someday. Now, those dreams feel paused indefinitely, like a book I keep meaning to pick back up but never do. The future feels uncertain and blurry, and that's a hard feeling to carry. Yet, despite all this, I try to hold on to hope. I remind myself that this phase won't last forever. I look for opportunities to build skills and maybe, someday, transition into a better paying career. I talk to others who've been where I am, trying to learn from their resilience. And sometimes, I allow myself to imagine a future where financial pressure doesn't dictate every choice, a future where I wake up without that sinking feeling. For now, I live moment to moment, balancing bills and emotions, hope and reality. The system feels broken, and it's easy to feel small in its grip, but I'm still here, still trying, still dreaming, still hoping for a way out. And maybe that's enough for today. I never thought I'd be here, stuck, overwhelmed, watching the numbers on my bank account shrink while the bills keep piling up. I'm 26, working a full-time job that barely covers rent, food, and the little things I need to get by. Every day feels like a tightrope walk, balancing between just making it and falling into a pit I can't climb out of. It started a few years ago, right after college. I was full of hope, with a decent degree and a job offer that promised stability. But the stability turned out to be an illusion. Rent went up almost every year, groceries kept getting more expensive, and utilities, insurance, phone bills, all those things I never really thought about before, they started eating away at what little money I earned. I tried to keep up, working extra shifts, cutting back here and there, but it never felt like enough. The harder I worked, the more expenses seemed to grow, as if the system was designed to keep me just barely afloat. It's not just the numbers, though. It's the feeling that no matter how hard I try, the finish line keeps moving farther away. I'm trapped in this endless cycle where every dollar I earn is swallowed by another bill or an unexpected expense. A broken washing machine. A car repair. Medical copays. I can't even plan for emergencies because there's never any room in my budget for savings. I've stopped dreaming about big things because they feel impossible, owning a home, traveling, starting a family. I've had to put those hopes on hold, maybe forever. Some nights, I lie awake thinking about how I ended up here. I remember the optimism I had, the plans I made. I wanted to build a life where I felt secure, where I could afford to do things that made me happy, like going out with friends or investing in hobbies. Instead, I'm constantly stressed, counting every penny, and feeling guilty for spending even the smallest amount on myself. It's exhausting and lonely, like I'm running on a treadmill that's speeding up but never taking me anywhere. The emotional toll is heavier than I ever imagined. There are days when anxiety grips me so tightly I can't focus on work or sleep properly. The shame of asking for help, of admitting that I'm struggling, weighs me down. I see friends posting about their vacations, new cars, or promotions, and I want to celebrate with them but feel isolated by my own reality. Social media becomes a double-edged sword, reminding me of what I can't have, while also providing a fleeting sense of connection. Coping means learning to find small pockets of peace wherever I can. Sometimes it's a walk in the park or a cheap coffee shared with a friend who understands. Other times, it's just reminding myself that this isn't permanent, that one day, maybe, things will get better. I've started reading about personal finance and budgeting obsessively, searching for hacks and tips to stretch my dollars further. But deep down, I know that no amount of clever budgeting can change the fundamental issue, the economic environment itself. I watch the news and see how inflation keeps rising, how wages stay stagnant for people like me. Politicians talk about growth and opportunity, but I don't see it in my life. I'm part of a generation that's been told to work hard and play by the rules, yet the rules seem rigged. It feels like the system benefits those at the top while the rest of us scramble just to survive. Sometimes, I catch myself daydreaming about quitting everything, leaving the city, finding a cheaper place, maybe even moving back home to save money. But then the fear kicks in, what if I can't find a job? What if moving means losing what little independence I have? What if I'm just delaying the inevitable? Despite all this, I hold on to hope. It's fragile, but it's there. I remind myself that this is one chapter of my life, not the whole story. I dream of a future where I'm not defined by financial stress, a future where I can finally breathe freely, pursue passions without guilt, and build meaningful connections without the shadow of money always lurking. I want to be able to say yes to opportunities, to travel, to save for a home, or even just to buy a nice meal without counting the cost. But for now, I'm here, doing my best. Every day is a negotiation between what I need and what I can afford. It's a grind, a struggle that wears me down but also teaches me resilience in ways I never expected. I've learned to find strength in vulnerability, to reach out when I need to, and to cherish the small wins, a paid bill, a day without panic, a moment of laughter despite it all. If anything, living with this financial pressure has shown me how much I want a better world, not just for myself, but for everyone caught in this trap. A world where stability isn't a luxury, where work is fairly rewarded, and where dreams aren't crushed by rising costs. I don't know when or how that change will come, but I'll keep hoping. Because hope is all I have to hold on to, even when the weight feels unbearable. Hey, friends! If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. I never imagined I'd find myself in this kind of financial squeeze, feeling like I'm running on a treadmill that only speeds up while I'm stuck in place. It's like the world around me is moving forward, thriving maybe, but I'm just trapped. Constantly trying to keep my head above water, but the water keeps rising, and I'm sinking slower than I can swim. It's hard to even put into words the kind of pressure that lives inside me every day. I wake up, and the first thing that hits me isn't the smell of fresh coffee or the comfort of my bed. It's the weight of bills waiting to be paid, rent that feels like a mountain, and a paycheck that barely stretches far enough to cover last month's expenses, let alone this month's. The economy feels like a beast, growing bigger and scarier every day, swallowing up any chance I had of feeling secure. Prices for everything, groceries, gas, utilities, even the simplest joys like catching a movie or grabbing a quick meal with friends, are climbing relentlessly. Meanwhile, my income? It's barely budged. I work 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and yet somehow, I'm still behind. Every dollar I earn disappears before I even have a chance to breathe. Some days, the math is brutal. Rent is due, the car needs gas, my phone bill can't be skipped, and the fridge is empty. I look at my bank balance and try not to panic. I have to prioritize. Do I pay the electricity this month or stock up on food? Sometimes I choose food, because how can I think straight if I'm hungry? Other times, I have to put off buying groceries, hoping a little darkness in the apartment is a small price to pay. It's humiliating, but it's survival. Social media doesn't help. Everyone seems to be traveling, buying new gadgets, posting about promotions and new apartments, while I'm sitting here, second-guessing if I should buy the cheaper brand of pasta or skip dinner altogether. I try not to compare, but it's impossible to ignore. The pressure to keep up is exhausting. Emotionally, I'm exhausted too. There's a constant hum of anxiety humming beneath the surface, sometimes swelling into full-blown panic when a surprise expense hits. Like the time my car broke down in the middle of nowhere, no savings, no emergency fund, just scrambling to borrow money from family, feeling like a failure. That day, I sat on the curb and cried because I was scared, not just about the car, but about what this meant for my fragile grip on stability. Sleep is a rare commodity. At night, my mind races with what ifs and how am I going to. I try to push these thoughts away, but they keep circling. It's hard to rest when you're constantly strategizing survival. I catch myself snapping at loved ones, not because I want to, but because I'm so drained and overwhelmed. Sometimes I feel isolated, like no one really understands how this pressure chips away at your soul day after day. I've had to give up so many dreams. I was supposed to finish my degree by now, but with tuition rising and my work hours maxed out just to make rent, school feels like a distant luxury. I had plans to travel, to see new places, to explore and learn about the world outside this paycheck-to-paycheck grind. Those plans are shelved indefinitely. Even simple things, like buying a decent laptop or saving for a future apartment, feel like impossible goals. Coping is a mix of small victories and quiet defeats. I've learned to budget down to the penny, to clip coupons, to hunt for discounts online. I lean on friends who get it, sharing meals instead of money, swapping clothes, and just talking openly about the struggle. Sometimes, I journal, letting the frustration pour out onto paper. It helps, a little. But there's also a stubborn ember of hope inside me. Despite the heaviness, I cling to the belief that this isn't forever. I remind myself that even though the system feels rigged and the odds feel stacked against me, I still have dreams worth fighting for. Maybe one day, I'll finish that degree, land a job that pays enough to breathe easier, and afford to not just survive, but to live. I dream about a day when I don't have to choose between bills and groceries, when I can afford to take a vacation without guilt, and when I don't feel like a failure for asking for help. I want to look back and say, I made it through. But for now, it's one step at a time. One paycheck, one bill, one meal. Holding on, even when it feels impossible. Trying to stay grounded in a world that seems to be moving too fast, while I'm stuck in place, just hoping the future is kinder than today. This is what it's like to live in a system where expenses rise faster than income, where hope is fragile but necessary, and where every small choice carries the weight of survival. It's not glamorous or easy. It's honest, raw, and real. And this is my story. I never thought I'd find myself here, caught in this endless loop where money feels like a mirage, always just out of reach no matter how hard I chase it. When I was a kid, I imagined that once I was an adult, I'd be free. Free to travel, to explore my passions, to build a life that felt meaningful and secure. But now, at 26, the reality feels so much heavier than those dreams ever prepared me for. The economic world around me is like this invisible force tightening a noose around my daily decisions. Every morning, I wake up already calculating, how much will the bus fare cost? Can I skip the coffee today? Should I pick up extra shifts even if I'm exhausted? The cost of living keeps climbing, faster than my paycheck. Rent, groceries, utilities, they all seem to inflate relentlessly, while my income stubbornly stays put or inches up by just a few dollars. It's a constant tug-of-war, and I always feel like I'm losing ground. I live in a small one-bedroom apartment in the city, which I share with my cat, Luna. She's a small comfort, the one soft thing in the chaos. But even the basics are a struggle. I can't remember the last time I ate out at a restaurant, or bought a new piece of clothing without agonizing over the cost for days. Those little luxuries that once seemed so simple now feel like distant fantasies. I try to remind myself that these sacrifices are temporary, but the weight of postponing happiness sometimes feels suffocating. Work is tough, not just physically, but mentally. I have a decent job, but it's not what I dreamed of when I graduated college. I wanted to make a difference, to do creative work, to build something meaningful. Instead, I'm caught in this cycle of punching a clock, chasing deadlines, and sometimes feeling like a cog in a machine that only cares about productivity and profit margins. It's hard to find motivation when the payoff feels so small compared to the effort. Bills arrive like clockwork, each one a reminder that no matter what I do, there's always more to pay. I keep an old spreadsheet on my laptop, tracking every expense, every penny, trying to find places to cut back. But the cuts only go so far. There's a limit to how much I can skimp without sacrificing my health or sanity. I've canceled subscriptions, stopped buying things I enjoy, even delayed medical checkups. And yet, somehow, the balance sheet barely moves. The emotional toll is harder to quantify. Some days, I wake up feeling numb, like I'm just going through the motions. Other days, the anxiety creeps in like a cold shadow. What if I lose my job? What if an emergency hits? What if I can't keep up? That fear clings to me, making it hard to breathe. I try to stay hopeful, but hope is fragile when the future looks so uncertain. I talk to friends sometimes, but it's tough. Everyone is struggling in some way, and there's an unspoken pressure to put on a brave face. No one wants to admit how hard it is to live paycheck to paycheck, how the system feels rigged. It feels like I'm trapped in a maze with no clear way out, and the walls keep closing in with every expense I can't avoid. I cope in small ways. Luna's purring helps, music helps, walking outside and feeling the sun on my face helps. I remind myself to breathe, to take one day at a time. Sometimes, I allow myself to dream again, even if just for a moment. I think about traveling to the coast, about going back to school, about starting a small side business doing something I love. But then the reality settles back in, and I tuck those dreams away, promising myself I'll get to them someday, when I'm stable enough. The hardest part is the feeling of time slipping by. I watch others around me seem to move forward, buy homes, start families, build careers, while I'm stuck trying to keep my head above water. It's like I'm living someone else's life, waiting for a break that never comes. That feeling of being trapped, of watching life happen around you while you scramble to keep up, is a heavy weight I carry every day. But even with all this, I'm still here. I'm still fighting. I hold on to the hope that things will change, that maybe, just maybe, the system will shift or I'll find a way through. I try to remind myself that my worth isn't measured by my bank account, that my dreams don't have to die just because they're delayed. And sometimes, when the nights are quiet and the world slows down, I let myself imagine a different future, a future where money isn't a constant worry, where I can finally breathe freely and live the life I always hoped for. Until then, I keep going, one day at a time, holding on to those fragile dreams, and reminding myself that I'm more than this struggle. That someday, this chapter will be behind me, and I'll tell a different story, one of resilience, hope, and finally, freedom. But for now, I'm here, in this moment, doing my best to survive, and maybe, just maybe, to thrive. It's strange how money, something that seems so basic, so necessary, can end up feeling like a weight chained to your chest, dragging you down every single day. I'm 26 now, and for as long as I can remember, it's been this constant battle between what I earn and what I owe, what I need and what I can barely afford. I know I'm not alone in this. Hell, I hear the same stories from friends, family, even strangers online. But that doesn't make it easier. Some days, it feels like I'm screaming into a void. I graduated college 5 years ago with a decent degree, hopeful that the hard work would pay off. I got a job in marketing, entry level, nothing glamorous, but stable. At first, it felt manageable. I was making a paycheck, paying rent in a modest apartment, and even treating myself to the occasional night out. But then the bills started creeping up, rent rose, groceries got pricier, utilities climbed, and somehow the cost of everything else, transportation, medical visits, even coffee, kept inching higher. I'm working more hours, picking up freelance gigs when I can, and still it's never quite enough. It's as if the money just evaporates the moment it hits my hands. The economic pressure is more than just numbers on a page, it's a creeping anxiety that settles in my chest every morning. I wake up already worried about what the day will cost me. Will the bus fare be enough? Can I squeeze a bit more out of my food budget this week? Is the rent going to be late again? That feeling of being trapped, it's overwhelming. Like no matter how hard I try to get ahead, I'm stuck running on a treadmill that's speeding up faster than I can keep pace. I try to keep a budget, tracking every dollar. But sometimes the math just doesn't add up, because there are things you can't always control. My car broke down last month, and the repairs wiped out my emergency fund. Now, I'm borrowing rides from coworkers or paying for expensive last-minute rideshares that I hate because they drain my funds faster. The stress of unexpected expenses gnaws at me daily, turning simple problems into crises. Emotionally, it's exhausting. I feel this constant mix of frustration, guilt, and shame. Frustration because I'm working so hard and still struggling. Guilt because I know my parents sacrificed so much to support me, and here I am barely scraping by. Shame because I have to say no to things that once brought me joy, dinners out, concerts, even small gifts for friends, because they don't fit into the budget. It's like my world has shrunk, and with it, my sense of self-worth. The system feels rigged. It's designed so that expenses grow faster than income, and that keeps people like me tethered to a cycle of living paycheck to paycheck. Inflation eats away at my buying power. Rent is a constant uphill climb that feels impossible to beat. And the pressure isn't just financial, it's social. I see others around me buying cars, moving into nicer places, traveling, starting families, while I'm stuck thinking about how to cover next month's bills. Some nights I lie awake, haunted by thoughts of what my life could be if money wasn't this huge barrier. I dreamt once of going back to school for my master's, maybe starting my own business, or even just traveling to places I've only seen in pictures. But those dreams have been pushed further and further down the list, replaced by immediate needs and survival. I've had to postpone saving for retirement, buying a home, even small luxuries that most people take for granted. I cope the best way I can. I cut back on everything non-essential, hunting for deals, using public transport, and trying to cook at home more instead of eating out. I talk to friends when I can, but sometimes I isolate myself because I don't want to be a downer. I've started seeing a therapist to manage the anxiety, which helps, but it doesn't pay the bills. Occasionally, I find small moments of joy, like a walk in the park, or a call with a loved one, that remind me there's more to life than money. But those moments feel fleeting. Despite everything, I'm trying to hold on to hope. Hope that the economy might stabilize, that wages will eventually catch up, and that my hard work will pay off. Hope that one day I'll feel free to make choices based on what I want, not just what I can afford. I remind myself that I'm not defined by my financial struggles, even if they dominate my daily life. I'm still learning, growing, and fighting to carve out a better future. It's not easy living in this pressure cooker, and some days I want to give up. But somehow, I keep going, because what else is there? I try to be kind to myself, celebrate the small victories, and keep dreaming, even if those dreams feel distant. Maybe one day the chains will loosen. Until then, I'm here, navigating this complicated, exhausting, and sometimes heartbreaking journey called adulthood, one paycheck at a time. I never imagined that reaching my mid-20s would feel like being stuck in quicksand, slowly sinking, no matter how hard I try to pull myself out. It's like I'm running a race where the finish line keeps moving further away, and every step forward is met with a heavier weight on my shoulders. The thing is, it's not some dramatic event that got me here. It's the daily grind, the creeping pressure of bills, rent, groceries, and that relentless rise in costs that my paycheck just can't keep up with. I graduated college with hope that the future would be mine to shape. But the reality hit hard, almost immediately. I landed a decent job, one that pays more than minimum wage but less than what I thought was enough to live comfortably. Each month, when I look at my bank account, I'm caught in this loop: get paid, pay rent, pay utilities, buy groceries, cover transportation, maybe squeeze in some small treat, then watch the rest disappear. It's like a never-ending balancing act on a tightrope, where one unexpected expense could send everything tumbling down. What's maddening is watching prices climb. Rent goes up again this year, just like every year, without a corresponding bump in my salary. Gas prices spike, groceries get pricier, and even little things like a cup of coffee start to feel like luxuries. I've started to measure expenses not by need or want, but by survival. Do I really need new shoes right now, or should I stretch the old ones another month? Can I afford to eat out, or is it back to instant noodles and whatever's on sale at the grocery store? The answer is almost always the latter. I feel trapped, like I'm caught in a system designed to squeeze as much as it can from me without offering real upward mobility. My mind is constantly calculating, how much will my bills be next month? Is it smarter to cut back on electricity? Should I cancel my streaming service, even though it's one of the few things that helps me relax after a long day? The decisions pile up, and every one of them chips away at my peace of mind. Some days, the weight presses so heavily on me that it feels physical. The anxiety creeps in the moment I wake up, a dull, nagging ache in my chest. Will I be able to pay all my bills this month? What if my car breaks down? What if I get sick and can't work? These questions swirl in my head, stealing focus from the present and clouding any chance of real rest. I remember my dreams, those vivid hopes I had when I was younger. I wanted to travel, see the world beyond my small hometown. I wanted to move into a cozy apartment with a roommate or two, decorate it with thrifted finds, maybe even get a pet. I wanted to save enough to go back to school someday, maybe get a degree that would open new doors. But these dreams have been postponed so many times, they almost feel like a luxury themselves, something I can only think about when the immediate pressure fades for a moment, which isn't often. To cope, I've developed a sort of mental armor. I keep my expectations low, telling myself to be grateful for what I have. I lean on routines that don't cost money but provide comfort, long walks in the park, late-night phone calls with friends who understand the struggle, reading books borrowed from the library instead of buying new ones. Sometimes, I lose myself in music or podcasts, moments that let me escape, even if just briefly. But underneath all that, there's a quiet exhaustion. I'm tired of always counting, always compromising, always feeling like I'm barely holding on. There's also shame. It's hard to admit, even to myself, that I'm struggling so much. I see others around me moving forward, buying homes, starting families, traveling, and I wonder what's wrong with me. Why can't I catch a break? I try to remind myself that everyone's journey is different, but the comparison stings, especially when it feels like I'm working just as hard. Despite it all, I hold on to a fragile hope. I hope that someday, things will shift. That maybe I'll find a better job, or that the economy will stabilize. That the burden of financial stress won't feel like a constant cloud over every decision I make. I want to believe I'm not just surviving, but that I can thrive. For now, I keep taking it day by day. I remind myself that small steps matter, that every bill paid, every meal made at home, every little sacrifice is a victory. I try to find moments of joy wherever I can, even if it's just in a quiet evening with a good book or a smile from a stranger on the street. The system may be heavy, but I'm still here, still fighting, still dreaming, just maybe on pause, but not forgotten. I never imagined money would feel like a chain wrapped tight around my wrists, pulling me down day after day. Yet here I am, 27 years old, living paycheck to paycheck, feeling like every step forward is swallowed by the rising tide of bills, rent, groceries, and the little unexpected expenses that somehow pile up like a mountain I can't climb. It's strange how the economic environment twists every part of life into a balancing act on a fraying wire. When I wake up each morning, it's not just about facing the day's work or the usual routines. It's about figuring out if there's enough left after rent and utilities to buy food that isn't just the cheapest stuff in the store. Or if I can sneak in a few dollars to save, even if just a tiny bit, towards something better, like a trip, a course, or even a future that doesn't feel like this endless grind. My job pays okay by some standards, but it's not keeping pace with the inflation that's been eating away at every dollar. Rent has jumped again this year, groceries feel more expensive than ever, and even basic things like my phone bill seem to creep higher every month. Sometimes I catch myself calculating the cost of everything before I do it. Should I buy that coffee today, or will I regret it at the end of the week when I'm scrambling for essentials? Should I cook at home to save money or accept that I'm so tired I'll just grab something quick and hope it doesn't break the bank? The truth is, the system feels designed to keep people like me, young adults just trying to get by, trapped. Expenses rise faster than wages, and the safety nets seem threadbare or non-existent. I'm not alone, of course. I hear friends talk about the same struggles, or how they've had to take second jobs, defer their education, or move back home even though they hate it. But hearing about it doesn't lessen the weight of it for me. Every day I wake up hoping I can keep my head above water, and every day I feel the current pulling harder. Sometimes it's overwhelming. I lie awake at night thinking about how long it will take before I can afford a place that doesn't make me anxious every time the rent is due. Or the hope that one day I might buy a car so I don't have to rely on unreliable public transit. Or just the simple luxury of not having to count pennies when I want to treat myself. Those things seem like faraway dreams now, pushed further into the distance with every unexpected bill or emergency that pops up. I've had to postpone so many things. Going back to school feels like a luxury I can't afford, both in terms of tuition and the time it would take away from work. Saving for a trip or even a weekend getaway feels like a fantasy, not a realistic plan. Even friendships sometimes strain under this pressure, It's hard to say yes when the answer might mean spending money I don't have or missing work and risking income. The social isolation adds another layer to this feeling of being stuck. Emotionally, it's exhausting. There's a constant low hum of anxiety in the background, like a clock ticking louder than it should. I try to stay positive, but it's hard when every good news story about the economy or rising wages feels like someone else's reality, not mine. It's frustrating, demoralizing, and lonely. Sometimes I catch myself wondering if I'm just not smart enough, disciplined enough, or lucky enough to break free from this cycle. That's a dangerous spiral because it chips away at my self-worth and hope. But I do cope. I've learned to celebrate small victories, a week where I manage to save a little, a night where I cook a nice meal for myself, even just a day without stressing too much about money. I talk openly with a few close friends who understand, and that makes a difference. I try to keep my dreams alive, even if they're on hold. Writing, painting, learning new skills online, these small outlets remind me that I am more than my financial struggles. I hold on to the hope that this moment isn't permanent. That somehow, the system can change, or I can find a way out. Maybe I'll discover a job that pays more, or a scholarship that can fund a new education path, or a community that supports me better. I want to believe that someday, money won't feel like an anchor dragging me down but a tool that can help me build a life with freedom and joy. Until then, I keep moving forward as best I can. I budget, I prioritize, I remind myself that my worth isn't defined by my bank account. I allow myself to feel vulnerable about the struggle because pretending otherwise only makes it heavier. And most of all, I try to hold on to hope, hope that I'll outgrow this trap, hope that better days are ahead, and hope that my dreams, even if delayed, are still worth chasing. Because what else is there? I never thought I'd feel this way at 27. It's like I'm caught in a storm that never clears, a constant drizzle of bills, rent hikes, and unexpected expenses that soak through every plan I try to make. When I was a kid, I dreamed big, traveling the world, starting my own business, maybe even writing a book. Now? I'm just trying to keep my head above water. Every month feels like running on a treadmill that's speeding up. My income stays the same, or at best, inches forward, while everything else goes up. Rent, groceries, gas, phone bills, insurance, you name it. Sometimes I sit down with my bank app and stare at the numbers, like maybe if I just look hard enough, the math will change. But it doesn't. The numbers just mock me, telling me that no matter how hard I work, the gap only widens. I work a full-time job in retail management. It pays the bills, barely, but there's no room for saving or splurging on anything beyond the essentials. The pandemic made things worse, hours cut, shifts changed at the last minute, and even now, the economic rebound hasn't reached me. My paycheck feels like it's trapped in slow motion while the cost of living is running a marathon ahead. Sometimes I wonder how I got here. I went to college, took out loans, thought the degree would be my ticket out. But the job market was brutal, and even with my qualifications, I landed somewhere I could survive but not thrive. I see friends posting pictures of their apartments, vacations, or new gadgets, and I'm happy for them, but it stings. It feels like I'm watching from behind a glass wall, close enough to see, far enough to feel left out. Every decision feels weighed down by money. Should I buy groceries this week or pay the electric bill first? Can I afford to fill my tank, or will I have to bike in the rain again? That $7 coffee sounds like a luxury I can't justify, even if it might give me a small boost in a long day. I cancel plans with friends sometimes because I don't want to explain that my budget doesn't stretch that far. It's lonely, but admitting the truth feels like admitting failure. And it's exhausting, not just physically but emotionally. There's a dull ache that settles in when I think about the future. The dreams I had feel like they're slipping away, replaced by survival mode. I had planned to save for a down payment on a home someday, but now, just saving a few $100s seems impossible. I want to believe things will get better, but the headlines say otherwise: rising inflation, stagnant wages, job insecurity. It's hard to hold on to hope when everything around me feels unstable. Yet, I keep going. I've learned to stretch every dollar, clip coupons, and cook meals that don't feel like punishment. I've taken on side gigs, odd jobs here and there, just to patch the holes. Sometimes, when the weight gets too heavy, I call my mom or my closest friend and just vent. Talking helps. It reminds me I'm not alone, even if the system feels designed to keep people like me trapped. I've had to put some dreams on hold, traveling, further education, even a proper vacation. I tell myself it's temporary, a sacrifice I'm making for a better tomorrow. But some days, the weight of postponed dreams is almost too much. I find myself daydreaming about a life where I don't have to worry about every penny, where I can breathe and just live without constant fear. This struggle has changed me. It's taught me resilience and grit, but also humility and the importance of kindness, both to others and to myself. I'm learning to celebrate small wins, a week without overdraft fees, a meal cooked from scratch, a day when I don't have to say no to something I want. These moments remind me that even in this system that feels so stacked against me, I still have control over how I face each day. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I'm trying to hold on to the flicker of hope that maybe one day, the treadmill will slow down, and I'll get off, step into a space where my dreams aren't just postponed wishes but plans I can chase. Until then, I keep moving forward, even if it's just one careful, measured step at a time. I never thought I'd end up here, feeling like I'm constantly drowning, barely keeping my head above water. I'm 26, just out of college for a few years, and yet, some days, it feels like I'm stuck in a loop that never gets easier. The bills come, the rent goes up, the groceries cost more, and my paycheck just doesn't stretch the way it used to. It's like running on a treadmill set at a speed faster than I can keep up with, except the treadmill is on fire, and the finish line keeps moving farther away. Every morning, I wake up with that gnawing anxiety in the pit of my stomach. It's not sharp, more like a dull ache that won't go away. I check my bank app first thing, a ritual I hate but can't stop myself from doing. The balance blinks back at me, reminding me of what's left after rent, utilities, phone, student loans, and everything else I can't avoid. Sometimes, it feels like I'm watching a sandcastle being eroded by the tide. No matter how much I try to hold it together, it's slipping away. The numbers don't lie, but they don't tell the whole story either. The economic pressure is more than just numbers on a screen. It's in every choice I make throughout the day. Should I pack lunch or risk eating out? Should I fill my gas tank halfway or just enough to get to work? Should I accept that creak in my apartment's faucet and leave it broken for now because I can't afford the plumber? Every decision feels like a balancing act on a tightrope where one wrong step could send me tumbling. I remember when I first moved out of my parents' house. I was full of hope, excited to make a life on my own terms. I imagined a small apartment filled with thrift store finds, weekend trips to the beach, occasional nights out with friends, and maybe even saving up for something bigger, a car, a better job, a chance to travel. But those dreams started to feel like luxuries instead of goals. The reality is that rent has gone up almost every year, and my salary has barely moved. I've seen the cost of groceries spike, my utility bills creep higher with each season, and even the smallest emergencies, like a dentist visit or a car repair, turn into mountains I can't climb right now. I'm stuck in a system that feels rigged. It's like I'm on a hamster wheel, working more, earning the same, and watching everything cost more. My friends talk about promotions, investing, buying homes, but those conversations make me feel like I'm watching from the outside, as if there's some secret club I'm not invited to. I work hard. I pick up extra shifts when I can, I do freelance gigs on nights and weekends, I cut back wherever possible, but it feels like I'm still falling behind. The emotional toll is heavy. Sometimes, I catch myself holding back tears when the weight feels too much. Other times, I get angry at a system that prioritizes profits over people, angry at the policies that seem to benefit the wealthy, angry at the cost of just trying to survive. But mostly, it's a quiet, exhausting kind of sadness. The kind where you want to scream I'm trying, but feel invisible anyway. Coping has become an art form. I've learned to celebrate small victories, like managing to pay all my bills on time or finding a free event to attend instead of spending money on entertainment. I keep a budget, obsessively, but I know the numbers don't capture everything. I talk to close friends about it sometimes, though it's hard because I don't want to sound like I'm complaining or worse, failing. Vulnerability feels risky when you're trying to appear like you've got it together. Still, there's a part of me that clings to hope. I dream quietly of a day when I don't have to choose between paying rent and eating well. I imagine a future where I'm not afraid of an unexpected expense. I want to travel, to see new places, to feel the freedom of not constantly worrying about money. I want to build something stable, a home, a career, a life that feels secure. But those dreams have been postponed again and again. I remind myself that this isn't forever, though sometimes it feels like it. The financial pressure isn't just about money, it's about dignity, about feeling like I'm worthy of more than just scraping by. I want to believe the struggle is temporary, that the system can change, or at least that I can find a way through it. In the meantime, I'll keep waking up and facing the day with whatever strength I can muster. I'll keep trying to find moments of joy between the anxiety, moments of laughter between the stress. Because despite everything, I'm still here. Still fighting. Still hoping for something better. And maybe, just maybe, that hope is what keeps me moving forward when the treadmill feels like it's burning beneath my feet. That's my story, not one of defeat, but of persistence, vulnerability, and quiet resilience in a world that often feels like it's built against me. I never thought I'd be here, writing down how every day feels like I'm running just to stay in place. Growing up, I had this image in my head of what life as a young adult would be, a job that pays enough to cover rent and bills, maybe a little left over for nights out or saving for a trip. A chance to build something, to look forward to the future. But now, it's like the ground is shifting beneath me, and no matter how hard I try, I can't get ahead. Instead, I'm caught in this endless cycle of bills, rising costs, and worry. I wake up every morning already feeling the weight of money pressing down on me. It's not just about not having enough, it's about the constant pressure to stretch what little I do have. Grocery shopping feels like a strategic mission. I scan prices, compare brands, and swap out items I love for cheaper alternatives, all while trying to remember what's actually nutritious. Sometimes, I skip meals or eat less just to make sure the rent gets paid on time. There's a dull ache in my chest when I open my wallet or check my bank app and see the number lower than it was yesterday. And no matter how carefully I budget, expenses seem to creep up faster than I can adjust. Rent is the biggest culprit. Every year, it seems to increase more than my income does, if my income even increases at all. My paycheck barely covers the basics anymore. Utilities, internet, transportation, they all keep climbing. I've had to give up things that once felt like small luxuries but now feel like essentials for my sanity. Like going to the movies, or grabbing a coffee with friends, or even buying a book. Sometimes I feel like I'm existing in this bubble of survival, where joy and spontaneity are luxuries I can't afford. The financial strain bleeds into everything, how I feel about myself, my relationships, my future. I can't help but feel trapped. Like I'm in this system designed to keep me scrambling, with no real chance of catching up. The stress is a constant companion. Some nights I lie awake, heart pounding, worrying about unexpected expenses. What if the car breaks down? What if I get sick? What if the landlord raises the rent again? It's exhausting. The future feels uncertain, even scary. I see people around me buying homes, traveling, starting families, and I can't help but wonder when or if I'll ever be able to do those things. Dreams that once seemed achievable now feel distant or impossible. I wanted to save for grad school, to invest in myself and my career, but those plans have been postponed indefinitely. I've had to push aside dreams of moving to a bigger city, or switching jobs for better pay, because the risk feels too high when every dollar counts. Sometimes I get angry, at the system, at how inequality seems baked in, at the people who don't seem to struggle like I do. But mostly, I just feel tired. Tired of the constant calculations, the tightrope walk between making ends meet and falling behind. It's lonely too. It's hard to talk about this with friends or family because it feels shameful, like admitting failure. And yet, I know I'm not alone. So many others are in this same place, trying to keep their heads above water in an economy that feels unforgiving. To cope, I've had to learn how to find small pockets of peace in the chaos. I take walks when I can, feeling the fresh air as a brief escape. I read stories online from others who understand this struggle. It reminds me I'm not just a number or a paycheck. I hold on to the hope that things can change, even if it feels slow or uncertain. I remind myself that this is just one chapter, not the whole story. But some days, that hope feels fragile. I wish I could say I'm optimistic about the future, but the reality is that the financial pressure dims the light at the end of the tunnel. It's like trying to fill a bucket with water when there's a hole at the bottom. No matter what I do, the leaks are there: unexpected bills, rising costs, low wages, and it wears me down. Still, I try. I'm learning to be resourceful, to advocate for myself, and to find meaning beyond money. I remind myself that my worth isn't tied to my bank balance. I'm more than my financial struggles. I hold on to the idea that maybe one day, with persistence and some luck, I'll break free from this cycle. Until then, I live one day at a time, counting small victories, making sacrifices, and dreaming quietly of a life where I'm not just surviving, but thriving. That's my story. Not just about money, but about resilience, vulnerability, and the quiet hope that keeps me moving forward even when the world feels heavy. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.